Your 20s are basically financial boot camp, except nobody gives you a handbook, and the drill sergeant is your landlord demanding rent money every month. If you're scrolling through social media wondering how everyone else seems to have their money figured out while you're eating ramen for the third night in a row, this video is going to be a game changer. I'm about to walk you through the exact money milestones you need to hit in your 20s to set yourself up for a lifetime of financial success. And I help people understand how to build wealth without needing a trust fund or a crystal ball to predict the stock market. If you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck and ready to actually take control of your financial future, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button if this information helps you out. Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to tell you. The financial decisions you make in your 20s will either set you up for decades of freedom or trap you in a cycle of financial stress that follows you well into your 30s and beyond. Most people treat their 20s like a financial free-for-all, thinking they'll figure it out later. But later becomes never, and suddenly you're 35 wondering why your net worth looks like a phone number from the 1920s. The good news? You have something that money can't buy and billionaires would trade anything for: time. And if you use that time strategically, you can accomplish financial milestones that will make your future self want to send thank you cards to your current self. But before we dive into these life-changing milestones, let me ask you something. When you think about your financial future, what comes to mind? Maybe you picture yourself finally being able to afford more than the cheapest item on every menu, or perhaps you dream of not having a mini panic attack every time your phone buzzes with what might be a bill notification. Whatever your vision looks like, the milestones I'm about to share will help you get there faster than you think possible. Let's start with the foundation that every wealthy person builds their empire on, but somehow nobody teaches you about in school. Milestone 1, master the art of not going broke. The first milestone sounds almost insultingly simple, but it's where most people completely fail. You need to create and stick to a budget. I know, budgeting sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry in slow motion, but here's the thing that might surprise you. People who budget aren't restricting their lives, they're buying their freedom. Think about it this way. Every dollar that leaves your account without a plan is a vote for staying exactly where you are financially. Every dollar that you intentionally direct toward a goal is a vote for the life you actually want to live. The question is, which future are you voting for? The most effective budgeting framework that actually works for real people in the real world is the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your after-tax income goes to needs like rent, groceries, and utilities. 30% goes to wants like entertainment, dining out, and that streaming service you forgot you were paying for. And 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. Now, if you're thinking 20% sounds impossible on your current income, you're not alone. Between student loans and entry-level salaries, many people in their 20s can't hit that 20% target immediately. But here's the key. Start with whatever you can, even if it's just 5%. The habit of saving is more important than the amount when you're building your foundation. The real magic happens when you start tracking every dollar that flows through your life. Most people have no idea where their money actually goes. They think they're being responsible, but then they check their bank account and wonder if someone else has been using their debit card to fund a secret lifestyle. Download a budgeting app or create a simple spreadsheet. For 1 month, track every single expense. That coffee, that impulse purchase on Amazon, that subscription you signed up for during a free trial 6 months ago. Everything. This exercise alone will probably save you hundreds of dollars because you'll discover you're bleeding money in places you didn't even realize. Milestone 2, build your financial force field. The second milestone is creating an emergency fund. And this isn't just some nice to have suggestion from financial advisors who live in ivory towers. This is your financial force field that protects you from life's inevitable curveballs. Your car will break down, your laptop will decide to die right before an important deadline. Your employer might decide your position is no longer necessary. These aren't pessimistic predictions, they're statistical certainties. The question isn't if something unexpected will happen, it's when. Most financial experts recommend saving 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. But if that number makes you want to crawl under your blanket and pretend money doesn't exist, start smaller. Your first goal should be saving $1,000. That's enough to handle most minor emergencies without derailing your entire financial plan. Here's why this matters more than you might realize. When you don't have an emergency fund, every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. You end up putting everything on credit cards, which creates debt that follows you around like a financial stalker. But when you have that emergency fund sitting in your account, unexpected expenses become minor inconveniences instead of life-altering disasters. The key is keeping this money somewhere easily accessible but separate from your regular checking account. A high-yield savings account works perfectly. You want to be able to access the money quickly when you need it, but you don't want it so convenient that you accidentally spend it on something that isn't actually an emergency. And let's be clear about what constitutes an emergency. Your friend's bachelor party in Vegas is not an emergency. A surprise sale on those shoes you've been eyeing is not an emergency. Your car needing new tires because the old ones are bald and dangerous is an emergency. Your laptop dying when you need it for work is an emergency. Milestone 3. Become a credit score superhero. The third milestone is building excellent credit. And this is where a lot of young people either get it completely wrong or ignore it entirely. Your credit score is like a financial report card that follows you everywhere. It affects your ability to rent an apartment, get approved for loans, and even influences some job applications. The beautiful thing about building credit in your 20s is that time is on your side. Credit scores reward long-term responsible behavior, so starting early gives you a massive advantage. The length of your credit history accounts for 15% of your credit score, which means every month you wait to start building credit is a month you can't get back. If you don't have any credit history, getting your first credit card might feel like trying to get a job that requires experience when you need a job to get experience. But there are ways around this catch-22 situation. Student credit cards and secured credit cards are designed for people with limited credit history. Once you have a credit card, here's the golden rule that will keep you out of trouble. Only charge what you can afford to pay off in full every single month. Treat your credit card like a debit card that gives you rewards and builds your credit history. If you can't pay cash for something, don't put it on your credit card unless it's a genuine emergency. Your payment history is the most important factor in your credit score, accounting for 35% of the calculation. This means paying every bill on time, every single month, no exceptions. Set up automatic payments if you have to. One late payment can undo months of responsible credit building. The second most important factor is your credit utilization, which is how much of your available credit you're actually using. Keep this below 30% of your total credit limit, but ideally below 10% for the best possible score. If your credit card has a $1,000 limit, try to keep your balance below $100 at any given time. Building excellent credit in your 20s is like planting a tree. It takes time to grow, but once it's established, it provides benefits for decades. A high credit score can save you tens of thousands of dollars in interest over your lifetime on mortgages, car loans, and other major purchases. Milestone 4. Start your wealth building machine. The fourth milestone is where things get really interesting, and it's the one that separates people who stay broke from people who actually build wealth. You need to start investing for retirement, even if retirement feels about as relevant to your current life as learning ancient Mesopotamian poetry. Here's the mind-blowing truth that nobody explains properly. Starting to invest in your 20s isn't just a good idea. It's like having a financial superpower that becomes weaker every year you wait to use it. Thanks, 25 is worth significantly more at retirement than every dollar you invest at 30 to compound interest, every dollar you invest at 5. Let me put this in perspective with some numbers that might make you want to call in sick to work tomorrow so you can set up a retirement account. If you invest $200 per month starting at age 25 and earn an average return of 8% annually, you'll have over $100,000 by age 65. If you wait until 35 to start investing that same $200 per month, you'll end up with about $200,000 at retirement. That 10-year delay costs you $300,000. $300,000. That's not a rounding error or a small difference. That's a house or a decade of comfortable retirement or enough money to make your future self significantly happier than your current self can even imagine. The easiest way to start is through your employer's retirement plan if they offer one. Most companies have a 401k plan, and many of them will match a percentage of what you contribute. This is literally free money that your employer is offering to give you, and yet somehow millions of people leave this money on the table every year because they think they can't afford to contribute. Here's how to think about employer matching. If your company matches 50 cents for every dollar you contribute up to 6% of your salary, and you're not contributing at least 6%, you're essentially giving yourself a pay cut. You're turning down free money because you're worried about having slightly less money in your paycheck today. Even if your employer doesn't offer matching, or if you're self-employed, you still need to start investing. Open an individual retirement account, either a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. The difference is when you pay taxes. With a traditional IRA, you get a tax deduction now, but pay taxes when you withdraw the money in retirement. With a Roth IRA, you pay taxes now, but withdraw everything tax-free in retirement. For most people in their 20s, a Roth IRA makes more sense because you're probably in a lower tax bracket now than you'll be in retirement. You're essentially paying taxes at today's discount rate instead of tomorrow's full price. The key is to start with whatever amount you can manage, even if it's just $50 per month. The habit of investing is more important than the amount when you're building momentum. As your income increases throughout your 20s, increase your contributions. Every raise you get, put at least half of that increase directly into retirement savings before you have a chance to get used to spending it on other things. Milestone 5, become a debt destroyer. The fifth milestone is eliminating high-interest debt, and this is where we separate the financially savvy from the people who will spend the next decade making credit card companies rich. High-interest debt is like having a financial vampire attached to your bank account, slowly draining your money while you sleep. Credit card debt is the worst offender because the interest rates are absolutely brutal. We're talking 15, 20, sometimes 25% or higher. If you're carrying a balance on credit cards while trying to invest for retirement, you're essentially trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. Think about it mathematically. If your credit cards are charging you 20% interest and your retirement investments are earning 8% annually, you're losing 12% on every dollar that's going toward investments instead of debt payoff. This is why most financial experts recommend paying off high-interest debt before investing beyond any employer match in your retirement accounts. But here's where it gets tricky. You don't want to stop investing entirely while you're paying off debt, especially if you have employer matching available. The strategy is to contribute enough to get the full employer match, which is usually around 3 to 6% of your salary, then throw every extra dollar at your high-interest debt until it's gone. The most effective debt payoff strategy is called the debt avalanche method. List all your debts by interest rate from highest to lowest, make minimum payments on everything, then put every extra dollar toward the debt with the highest interest rate. Once that's paid off, take all the money you were putting toward that debt and apply it to the next highest interest rate debt. This method saves you the most money in interest over time, but some people prefer the debt snowball method where you pay off the smallest balances first. The snowball method gives you psychological wins faster, which can help you stay motivated. Choose whichever method you're more likely to stick with, because the best debt payoff strategy is the one you actually follow through on. The goal is to enter your 30s completely free of high-interest debt. This gives you incredible flexibility to increase your retirement contributions, save for a house, or take advantage of opportunities that require cash. Milestone 6. Start planning your real estate empire. The sixth milestone is beginning to save for a down payment on a house, even if homeownership feels about as achievable as becoming an astronaut who moonlights as a professional chef. Real estate has historically been one of the most reliable ways for regular people to build wealth, and starting to plan in your 20s gives you options in your 30s. Now, I'm not saying you need to buy a house in your 20s. In fact, for many people, renting makes more sense during this decade while you're figuring out your career and potentially moving for better opportunities. But starting to save for a down payment gives you the flexibility to buy when the timing is right for your situation. The traditional advice used to be that you need 20% down to buy a house, but that's not actually true anymore. Many first-time homebuyer programs require as little as 3% down, and some government-backed loans require a down payment for first zero down payment. The average time buyers is actually around 8 to 9%. On a $400,000 house, which is roughly the median home price in many areas, a 9% down payment would be $36,000. That might sound like an impossible amount of money, but remember, you have time on your side. If you save $300 per month specifically for a down payment, you'll reach that $36,000 goal in exactly 10 years. The key is setting up a separate savings account specifically for your future down payment so the money doesn't accidentally get spent on other things. High-yield savings accounts or certificates of deposit work well for down payment savings because you want the money to be safe and accessible when you're ready to use it. But here's something most people don't consider when planning for homeownership. The down payment is just the beginning. You'll also need money for closing costs, which typically run about 2% of the loan amount. On that $400,000 house, closing costs would be around $8,000. Plus, you'll want to have some money left over for moving expenses, immediate repairs, and furnishing your new place. This means you're probably looking at saving closer to $50,000 total before you're ready to buy. Again, this isn't meant to discourage you. It's meant to help you plan realistically so you're not caught off guard when you're ready to make that purchase. Homeownership also comes with ongoing expenses that renters don't have to worry about. When the air conditioner breaks in your apartment, you call the landlord and it's their problem. When the air conditioner breaks in your house, you get to experience the joy of writing a check for $3,000 while sweating profusely in your own living room. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance, and repairs can easily add up to 1 to 3% of your home's value annually. On that $400,000 house, you might be looking at $4,000 to $12,000 per year in expenses beyond your mortgage payment. This is why it's crucial to make sure your overall housing costs, including these extras, don't exceed 28% of your gross income. But here's why homeownership can be such a powerful wealth building tool. Every mortgage payment you make reduces your loan balance and potentially builds equity. Unlike rent, which disappears forever into your landlord's bank account, mortgage payments are partially going towards something you own. Plus, if your home appreciates in value over time, you benefit from that appreciation. The earlier you buy, the more time you have to pay off your mortgage and build equity. Someone who buys a house at 28 and gets a 30-year mortgage will own their home outright at 50. Imagine entering 8. Your 60s with no housing payment beyond property taxes and insurance. That's the kind of financial freedom that makes early retirement actually own financial advisor. The seventh and possible. Milestone 7, Become Yord. Final milestone is developing genuine financial literacy. And this goes way beyond just knowing that you should spend less than you earn. You need to understand how money actually works in the modern economy because the people who understand money are the ones who end up with more of it. This means learning about different types of investments beyond just throwing money into a retirement account and hoping for the best. You should understand the difference between stocks and bonds, what index funds are and why they're so popular, and how compound interest actually works in practice, not just in theory. Look, your 20s might feel like financial chaos right now, but hitting these milestones will transform you from someone who panics at ATM receipts to someone who actually knows what they're doing with money. Your future self will either thank you for starting today or wonder why you spent another year scrolling through social media instead of building wealth. The choice is yours, but I know which version of yourself you'd rather be.